Good morning, good afternoon, and or evening, and welcome back to the Den, and to another Marvel Rivals video. This time, there's gonna be blood in the streets, there's gonna be chaos, there's gonna be mayhem, there's gonna be fantastic things. That's right, today we're gonna be getting into the Duelist Tier List. Now, I have already done a Vanguard tier list and a Strategist tier list, and I'll have those linked in the comments section down below. And if you guys could leave a like on this video for me, it really helps out tier lists and stuff like that. Do share it around, and of course subscribe for more Marvel Rivals content. But what do I think of all of the duelists? And where do they rank? Let's find out. Now, there are a lot more duelists than Vanguards and Strategists, so strap in. And I'm gonna try to be a bit more brief, right? Like you guys saw, I can get like 40 plus minutes out of 10 Vanguards and 10 Strategists, right? So with 22 duelists, at least I think I counted that right, 22 duelists, I'm gonna try to be a bit more brief, just for the sake of time. And I do apologize if you guys hear thumping and whatnot. The upstairs neighbors are apparently moving out, and I did not know that till today. And, well, I thought they were gone. So, should I start out with the first one? Iron Man. Played my first game with him. Started out everything with Iron Man. Obviously not in any way a fan or, know the direction that my camera rotates. Well, no, we're not going to start out with him. Instead, we're going to start out with probably the most recent hero that was showcased. She was showcased even after the first game of Blade, and that was Storm. Now, I love Storm. She is like the most badass woman in all of Marvel for me, right? She's my goon mommy. Yes, that's right, I said it. Storm is my goon mommy. She's my second favorite mutant of all, right? Right up there underneath Wolverine, and sometimes even depending on my mood in the day of the week, she could be above Wolverine there. So, I guess I'd place her in S, right? Well, yeah, maybe, right? See, Storm has a lot of good attacks. She has the ability to give a movement buff and a damage buff to her team, and it affects in an area, and the closer she is to the ground, the wider that spreads out, right? Kind of, the higher she goes, the narrower it gets. But even with her ability to peck at the back line a lot more effectively than some other duelists can, her damage output isn't quite per hit what you would really want it to be. She does do good damage. I'm not saying she doesn't do good damage. I love playing the Storm, right? Of course, with the Dirty Casual series, we've seen a lot of other heroes over time. But I do love playing a Storm. She is a great character. But her damage, it doesn't stack up to something like a Widow or a Hawkeye or a Hela or a Namor when you're striking at the back line from your back line, right? She, giving out the damage buff does help. She can buff herself up as well. And she can hit, like a little chain lightning across enemies and whatnot. She has a lot of ways to deal out pain and strike at the back line. She acts like a sniper, kind of command and control type unit, if you will, because she gives out the buff. But I'm going to be placing her in B tier, just objectively speaking, because her damage isn't something like a Namor or a Widow or a Hela or a Hawkeye. She does have the advantage of being able to position up in the air and get attack angles that they wouldn't, but they can do what she does better. They can't give out a buff like she can, right? So if you're wanting to buff your team while being able to strike at the back line, then Storm is the, that's going to be your power fantasy. That's the one you're going to want to go with. But objectively, just a comparison to some of the other options that do what she does, she belongs in B tier. Another thing that Storm suffers from is something else that Human Torch and Iron Man suffer from. They are always in the air. You can get down low to the ground, yes, but a lot of their movement is tied up in flying. So they don't have a lot of good escape options, and Storm really has no escape option. You can swap to the movement buff, but that movement buff is not going to be significant enough to like jerk you out of the path of damage to I'm saved. her ult, while you can deal out some damage, it can be overpowered by, of course, a lot of other healing ults. And if you don't get the kills you're expecting to, you're going to land yourself in the midst of them. So that's why I'm placing her in B tier. I really love her. I really do. Me personally, I want to place her in A tier because as much as I like her, I know she's not an S tier character, but objectively, she's going to go in the B tier. You know, let's go with the newest character, Blade. I've gotten a grand total of 6 games with Blade in. I've had some good ones. I've had some bad ones. I've had one MVP. It was game 5. I hope you guys joined me last night for Friday Night Rivals. Now, Blade, he's got some area of effect that he can do. He's got his dash that gives him more slashes, so you can go in, so you can activate your health regen and or not health regen, but your life steal. You can go in, start slashing up a bunch with the sword, and you're going to be getting that dash back as you do damage, so you can keep dashing. Like, you can just keep doing it over and over again, and you can run through a team, especially if you get their supports first. Blade, his ult is good. He does a dash. He doesn't warp back like Phoenix does. He does a dash, and he does a lot of slash damage in between there. He doesn't really immobilize or have any way for the opponents, unless they're just stuck in a corridor, to be able to not get out of it. So it can do a lot of damage and kill. It can also do practically nothing. Blade, he's got good range damage. He's got good melee damage. His dash, if say you get thrown off a cliff by Jeff, you can use the dash to get back up. You got 2 dash charges as well, which is really nice. He's a character that flows really well together. He's a character that makes a lot of sense as you play him. He's easy to pick up even though he's a 3-star. He's a good character. I'm going to be putting Blade in the A tier because his ability to regenerate his own health while also being able to be healed by supports makes him pretty hardcore. Like, I kind of want to say indomitable, but he can easily be stopped at the same time because, you know, he's a duelist. He's got 350 health, so he's one of those duelists like Mr. Fantastic. They're riding with some of the most health for duelists in the game. Like, no one's got more health in the duelist category than these guys and like 1 or 2 other characters. So, I mean, he's got a lot going for him. He's got high health. He's got the ability to block as well and give himself a damage resistance from the front. He's got an out option. He's got an in option. He's got multiple different kinds of damage options for melee and range. Or he has multiple different kinds of damage options, melee and range, not multiple for each, my bad. He's kind of got it all. He's really good. Now, of course, that's my impressions. He's brand new. He might get tuned down a little bit later on, you know. After more games, he might slip down into the B tier or something. Blade in the B tier, B for Blade. There's only ever gonna be one Blade. Now, but I'm gonna be putting him in the A tier. Not just because he's new, but he's pretty darn strong just on his own. Even if you're not getting buffs or supports from your team, he's still pretty strong on his own. So many. We're gonna be putting Magic in the S tier. Whoa, a dive character in the S tier, and it's not dive season? I know, right? But Magic has the ability to attack quickly by alternating between, you know, her abilities and her normal melee attack. She has multiple different kinds of ways to move quickly. She's got the portals, and then she can do the spin on top of that. She's got the dash and uppercut, which, like Blade's dash, can also be used to save yourself if you're getting thrown off the edge by a Jeff. One of the most important things for her, though, is the more damage that she does, she gets bonus health. More and more bonus health. So if you dive in and you get to hit multiple enemies with like a spin slash, and you even get to do like an uppercut, blah, somebody gets knocked out, you're gonna have a ton of bonus health to get out of there with or continue to fight with. And she does good melee damage. And again, she can attack quickly for alternating between her different kinds of attacks. She can also block. She's got a lot going for her. Now, Blade has the same amount of movement abilities as she does with 2 dashes, whereas she has, you know, the 1 uppercut dash, and then she has the ability to do 2 portals. So, but yeah, she has the ability to not need healing. mean, she has the ability to overpower Blade's lifesteal with the bonus health that she can get. She's just an all-around great character. With such a big roster of heroes, let's take the other newest one next, right? Phoenix. Phoenix is a great character out the gate. She's able to do good damage on her own. She has the ability to, as she hits enemies, to stack up sparks. When she gets 3 sparks on an enemy, that's the little 3 things you see above the enemy's head near their health bar. When all 3 of those light up, boom, they explode. If they're near other enemies, they apply 1 spark to each of those enemies, right? Getting headshots gets you 2 sparks, so double headshot real quick, and that's a spark instead of having to hit them 3 times. When she does a spark, that applies healing over time to herself. She's got good range. I want to say she's hit scan, but she might not be hit scan. It's really hard for me to keep track of all who's hit scan and who's not, but she is a great character if you can sit back and snipe and you can just constantly pop off those explosions. She has 2 different abilities that also apply sparks and do little explosions. One that she can place out at will, another is that comes off of her when she does a dash to like save herself, which is really nice. She has a movement ability to help save herself. She also like Star-Lord down here, she has the ability to fly temporarily. Moon Knight has the ability to glide, can't fly like, you know, Storm or Iron Man or Human Torch can, but she can fly temporarily like Star-Lord and Moon Knight here, right? Moon Knight can glide downwards. You know, she's got a lot going to her. She's got multiple different kind of movement abilities. She's got the ability to defend herself by, like, you know, doing a dash backwards to help save herself, get out of damage. She does great damage at long range. Stacking up the sparks makes it even worse. Popping off a lot of different explosions. You can direct her ult. So if you need to, So if you need to steer and kind of adjust your aim mid-ult attack, you can do that. And then she warps back to the point that she launched the attack from, so she even kind of gets like a little teleport away and save, right? It's really truthful, she's just launching an attack out, but still. She's just really great, just pretty all around. Now, even with the dash and the flight, she isn't one of the fastest characters, right? And she also is one of the lower health type characters, so she doesn't get to get health back as quickly as like Blade does because of his lifesteal and how quickly he can attack. She doesn't have as much health starting out as him, but she can get healing over time, and that healing over time can definitely help you out, especially if you're staying in the back line and you're using your abilities correctly to get sparks really quickly, and you're kind of constantly keeping that healing over time on yourself, and then you're making sure that you use your movement abilities to position well or to save yourself. She can be really good. She's not quite S tier because if you start to get somebody to dive down on you, you've really just got the dash. It takes her a second to go flying, and then when she flies, she's kind of slow. She's not fast like Star-Lord is when he's flying. Now, you can start to fly, do the dash, and then fly some more, but still, when you're flying, you're slow. We got our 2 newest characters in the A tier. They're good. They're not some of the most indomitable, but they are definitely good characters. Now, speaking of indomitable, right? Let's look at Mr. Swoletastic, who I'm going to be placing in the S tier. I hate Reed Richards. I do. I do not like Reed Richards. I hate Reed Richards more than I hate Captain America, right? Reed, the whole Fantastic Four is like the most useless plot MacGuffin in all of Marvel, right? They really are. And then Reed has to make it worse by going with Sue and having the one character that I hate more than any other character in any superhero universe ever. Franklin Richards. But Marvel Rivals, fortunately, Reed's a little bit different. Now, Reed gets swole. The more you hit enemies, he builds up his little elasticity meter, and then when he hits 100, he goes Mr. Swoletastic, and he is big. He is tanky. He has a lot of bonus health, and I mean, he can hold on to it, right? He has the ability to melee out at a pretty good range. He has the ability to pull somebody in towards him to get them in his less, further out melee range. He has the ability to drag his melee attack, kind of ensuring that you hit multiple enemies with it. He's got a lot going for him. He can build up that elasticity meter real quick, and then he's doing like big damage, right? He also has the ability to turn himself into a shield to absorb damage and then reflect it out in a shot, which can kill pretty easily, especially if you take a lot of damage while you're in the shield. It also gives him the ability to survive and back away. He's pretty good. He's pretty mobile in and of himself. He can also pull himself to enemies to build up his elasticity, or to allies to give them a shield, so he can reposition kind of like some other characters can, like Fang and whatnot. He can just pull himself away. He's got multiple outs. He's not a half bad character running in. Again, you've got range to help build up that elasticity, so you can go in as like Swole-tastic. His ult is probably about the worst thing about him, and the reason I say that is maybe there's a good way to aim it. Maybe there's a good way to ensure damage with it, and I just don't know that, but I don't know that, so yeah. When he first launched, his damage was kind of piffy, right? So he's gotten his damage tuned up over time. And that's what's really taken him from like a C tier character for me to an S tier character, because now he does good damage and he still has retained his survivability. Even when he first launched, this is a guy that I could be sitting there fighting an enemy group and then, do my shields, do some pulls, this, that, and the other, go Swole, and I'm still in the fight and still going by the time my supports get back to the fight to start healing me. He's not completely indomitable, especially when he's not swolled up. That's going to be the easiest time to kill him, but if they have any kind of sense or awareness of let me pop out my shield and absorb damage, back away, now let me turn around, pull myself to an ally to give them a shield and get myself out of there. If they got any kind of awareness about that, yeah, they're going to be really hard to kill. I haven't ever seen the shield, when he goes into shield form, I haven't ever seen that like get overpowered and he die in that form. I've seen him die right after coming out of that form. I've died right after coming out of that form. But I've never seen somebody die in that form, right? You know what? Wolverine. Wolverine is usually my favorite mutant, right? He's a great X-Men. He's absolutely wonderful of a personality. I love him. We had Hugh Jackman. All the stuff that doesn't apply to Marvel Rivals. In Marvel Rivals, he's one of the few characters that I have MVP'd on my first game. Off the top of my head, Groot. I think there was one other character I MVP'd on the first game. Wolverine was the first one of those. He was the second, a Dirty Casual tries. I have liked his ability to just go up into a fight, give himself some damage resistance, just go to pound town on a singular enemy with his leap, and then just multi-slash. I don't like how most oftentimes I find myself in a position with Wolverine where it's like I have to save one of my offensive attacks that's also a movement ability for getting away, and not necessarily for damage, unless like I just have like multiple supports that are looking at me, right? Even with his bonus resistance as he gets lower in health, or the bonus health and the damage resistance he gets as he gets lower in health once he pops off that ability, like if you're already running away, or you have one of your movement abilities, like especially the leap through the air and not just necessarily the dash and slash forward, yeah, it's great. It's absolutely great. If you're trying to use it to actually hang in a fight longer, maybe not quite so much. And I haven't played him with Phoenix, but we don't take team ups into account for these kind of things, so maybe that might resolve itself if I have that team up active, right? But I love Wolverine. I every time I play him, well, actually whenever I play him, it's either I do really good or really bad, right? I've seen characters be able to romp around with Wolverine really effectively, especially on some of the newer maps that have like more lanes and pathways and cover. But a lot of what he has going for him, like if you're going in and you're just trying to pop everything off and glass cannon and then, you're expecting to die, say like you go in, you do a dash and slash in, you leap somebody into a wall, you slash them up, you do a couple slashes, you jump up, and you do an ult. Yeah, you can dish out a lot of pain, but you're still more glass cannon-y. There's so many things I like about Wolverine, but objectively, I'm also going to have to put him down in the B tier here with Storm, right? As much as I like just going in as the furry little rage beast and just tearing through somebody, there's other characters that can do that and do it a bit more effectively because they either have a movement option that's more designed at escaping, or they have the ability to do more than just give them a big chunk of bonus health that still melts away pretty easy, because you're not like a tank, you're not like a Venom, right? Wolverine also has a little bit lower health than, you know, some other characters do that have the ability to get bonus health or to get like life steal or healing over time. He's got 300 if I'm not mistaken, and while that's more than the average 250, 350 would really do him a lot of good and help him to kind of easily move up into the A tier. He's a character that you can pick up really easy, but his overall effectiveness, I mean, as much as I love Wolverine, there's a reason you don't see him fielded as much as you see a bunch of other DPS characters fielded. For me, the biggest drawback on Wolverine is, again, that one of your damage moves that's a movement ability, you have to burn it as a movement ability, and that just decreases your overall damage output. But that's Wolverine going in the B tier. Got two badasses in the B tier. Next up is going to be the Queen of Asgard? The Hell? The Underworld? Next up is Hela. So, with Hela, she can do a large amount of damage output. Her main attack, especially if she's landing crits, can 3-tap opponents. If they've taken a little bit of damage, a lot of times getting 2 headshots in a row will finish off an opponent. She has the ability to also throw out the 3 daggers that when they land, they'll explode and do some damage. She's got a lot of ways to output some damage. She's even got an escape move that allows her to dash in a singular direction, and she goes into like a little raven, scoots off, and then comes back out and lands. She can do that as a repositioning tactic, or she can do it as an escape move, or she can do it as a, hey, let me get out of the direct line of fire here kind of thing. But she can only do it once before it goes on a long cooldown, and it is in a singular straight line. It's not something that you can control the direction of, really. You can basically just like, okay, I'm going to go left, right, forward, back, up, whatever, and you're just going to dash off in that direction. She also does have a stun, but the stun does take a second before it actually stuns the opponent. So it's not like an immediate stun, like hitting with a freeze or hitting them with a penny web or something like that. It does take a second for the stun to actually kick in. This makes trying to cancel ults with her stun pretty darn tricky. It's not like Mantis where you just throw it out and boom, they're stunned. So it can be good, but it's also not necessarily the most effective to use in an emergency situation. If you're able to anticipate and then you're able to pop it off like a second before, sure, it can be a great stun. Otherwise, as far as stuns go, it's one of the worser stuns in the game. All things considered, she does have a little bit of all-aroundness to her. She's got a stun, she's got an escape move, she can do high damage, she's got multiple moves to output damage. Her ult allows her to put out massive damage with some splash to it as well. But she can be taken out of it if she takes enough damage, and she is, pretty much rooted in place up there, high up in the sky when she goes to do it. If you got a good Hela, they're going to be able to position that to where they're not going to be as much of a target, but they're still stationary and just able to take lots of damage and get knocked out of it pretty easily if you're not careful. All things considered, I'm going to be putting Hela in the B tier. Now, I know because of her damage output and how consistent of a high damage output kind of like backline sniper she's been, I know a lot of people are probably going to say she needs to be up here or up here in the S tier, right? And I can see an argument for her being in the A tier. But the reason I'm going to put her in the B tier is because her options to deal with a dive character are limited. If she gets, say, dived on by a Psylocke, or she gets dived on by a Black Panther, her stun is not going to stun them quickly enough to be able to allow her to really make a turnaround play on that. If her stun was a bit more reactive and needed less anticipation, she would be a great anti-dive character, and she would have multiple, and with this more effective stun, she would be able to use the options she has to much greater effect on a character that's diving her. I will say that if you're able to save her alt attack where she throws out the multiple daggers, that can pretty darn quickly end a diver, but say Black Panther, Spider-Man, they're going to be able to tear through you pretty quickly. Someone else that's going in B tier that has similar, maybe a little bit more options in terms of someone diving on them is going to be Hawkeye. And the reason I'm putting Hawkeye in the B tier is even though he's got the explosive arrows that he can swap to, he's got his ult that he can make the after image, he's got a little slash that knocks the opponents back, he has a little ricochet reflect attack for ranged attacks, but it doesn't really work for a melee attack or someone dashing through you, right? He also has a double jump, but kind of like Hela's dashes, these have longer than you'd expect cooldowns. You're not able to use them very rapidly. He does have multiple options to use, but he's a slow mover. He's really boots on the ground like Hela. And he can use his double jump, kind of like Hela can use her dash to, reposition or to escape the direct line of fire. It's not enough to really get them away. Any kind of person that's diving, say like an Iron Fist, a Black Panther, a Scarlet Witch, they're still going to be able to keep up with you, keep after you, keep on you. I mean, even someone like an Iron Man or a Storm, they can even stay on you. It's not really enough to get you away. It's enough to get you out of the direct line of fire and to help you avoid damage, but it's not really enough altogether to save you. Now, he can do extremely high single target damage, just like Hela can. Hawkeye can even one-shot some characters. So he's really good about that. The spread though, and the drop down on his explosive arrows prevents those from being an effective, good long range type of attack. If he's kind of mid range or close range, he can use those on groups. He can use those to help counter dive characters, but you have to swap to it and you still have to draw back. And if it's between that or being able to one-shot a lot of characters, a lot of times Hawkeye ends up sticking with his kind of primary arrow. He also does have an attack that pierces multiple enemies. It's not a lack of damage output or a lack of being able to get kills or finish fights with him. It's a lack of survivability. And even though he has multiple options, they're not really gonna save you if somebody's on you. He's great at damage output, just as great as Hela is. You could even make an argument for him being better. You could even make an argument for him being in the A tier. But all in all, both of them are going in the B tier because they don't have a lot of good defensive options to save themselves. Another character that doesn't really necessarily have any options to save themselves, but someone that can fight back more effectively when they're getting dove, that is also kind of a long-range DPSer, is going to be Black Widow. Now, I am going to put Widow up here in the A tier, and I know you guys could say, well, just kind of like Hawkeye and Hela, she should be down here in the B tier. Why is she going to go up here in the A tier? Well, I'm going to put Widow up in the A tier because she is able to move much faster than either Hela or Hawkeye. Her run allows her to sprint for a distance and then she can get a jump. She also has the ability to do a spin kick to damage, and it does pretty high damage, and it knocks back opponents. Plus, she can swap to a melee option, and those stun batons are, well, they're no joke. Of course, using her rifle is how she's going to do the absolute most damage, but I'm telling you from experience, swapping over to those batons when you get doved on, it may not save you depending on how much damage you take on the initial dive. It may not save you if you don't see them coming, but it's a much better option than trying to get away with a slow boots on the ground character that has limited options in terms of escape. Also, her sprint doesn't really go on a cooldown like Hawkeye's double jump or Hela's dash, so that's always a good thing. Her spin kick does come back more quickly than, I believe it comes back more quickly than Hela's stun. Maybe don't quote me on that, but it does come back pretty quickly. Also, she's not half bad at hip firing with her sniper in close range, and if you got a direct line of sight and you can quick scope, you can even get some extra damage that way. Her ultimate, it does hit a group of enemies and slows them down while damaging them, so this kind of gives her a bit more of a long-term extra effect off of her ultimate than Hawkeye does, because he gets the after image. Even with the singular after image, Hawkeye can only attack one of them. He can attack it quickly or he can attack it slowly, but at that point he's sacrificing on his damage. Whereas once an enemy is slowed by Black Widow's ability, she continues to get to scope up on him and do the same amount of damage, right? She doesn't have to sacrifice doing damage output for speed of hits. Because of her increased ability to fight back against the divers, that's why she's going in the A tier. Also, with a more consistent damage output over a longer period of time, she and Hela are a lot more the same in that regard. Hela also, unlike Hawkeye, doesn't have to sacrifice on damage output to attack more quickly. Next up, we're going to look at Namor. He's one of the guys that I played with more recently. He was one of the last heroes to get played with. I think he was next to last. Punisher was last. Well, technically Blade was last, but anyways, Namor was one of the most recent heroes I played with, and I've had some good games and some bad games with him, and I'm going to be sticking him up here in the A tier with Widow, since she was really recent, right? Also with the likes of Blade and Phoenix, but the reason he's going in the A tier and not necessarily in the B tier, because he does have a small amount of moves, right? He doesn't have a large repertoire, but with his repertoire, he does get the ability to shield himself and escape. He gets to move a little bit as well, and that shield lasts about 4 seconds, so he's able to defend himself completely, make himself invincible, and he's able to move and escape. That is a much more effective option than Hawkeye's double jump. It's even more effective than Hela's dash or Widow's being able to sprint. He's also going in the A tier because he has really high consistent damage output like Hela and like Widow. Also, being able to put out the Monstro turrets, and then when he gets headshots, they go into kind of like a rage mode and they shoot faster and they do more damage. It just gives him a lot of great options for being able to output damage, and the turrets can even help fight off divers. I'd put him in terms of being able to fight off a diver, I would put him on the same level as Hela or Hawkeye. He has very limited options that don't last very long, and they won't really save you. They can help you escape, but they're not by themselves going to save you. If you go up and you shield and you're sitting there and you're moving away, that by itself is not going to save you, right? But with his really high damage output plus the Monstro turrets, if you combine those kind of things correctly or you're good on your shots, you can easily fight off some divers much more easily than Hawkeye or Hela. So that's why I'm putting him up in A with Black Widow, right? Also, the whale. It hits in a big area, it can kill multiple targets, it can put out a lot of damage to multiple enemies if it doesn't kill them. You can even combine that with, some other ults and take out somebody like a Luna or a Mantis in their ult. Really effective, really high damage output. His biggest weakness is like Hela and Hawkeye. He's boots on the ground, right? He doesn't have a lot of let me get a whole bunch of speed going or a whole bunch of movement going. He's a pretty stationary sniper, similar to Widow, but Widow is more mobile than Namor. So, not a whole lot really with Namor. He's got a lot of positives to him, and his negatives, he does have his negatives, but those negatives don't outweigh the strength of the positives, right? It's kind of like Widow. She doesn't have an escape ability like a dash or a double jump. She doesn't have the ability to reflect shots, but she does have a greater ability to fight back against divers. Namor, he kind of has the same thing with his monster turrets, right? Plus, the shield makes him invincible. Being able to go invincible and being able to move while you're invincible, even though that by itself won't help you completely escape or it won't save you, it's still a much more powerful escape ability than like a double jump or a dash in a straight line. He can get outdone in terms of his damage output, right? Other people can kind of keep up with him, or they can overpower, like, you know, you have the right supports, they can just completely nullify all the damage that Namor is doing. So he's not like the most end-all be-all for a lot of different situations, but as far as like a more stationary kind of character that's going to be doing a lot of sniping from the back line like Widow, he's going to be one of your better options. Moving on to somebody else that does a lot of long-range type damage, right? He can also do some up-close type damage, but he's more built for longer range type damage. We're going to talk about the Human Torch. Now, the Human Torch, again, does have his little dive ability that he can use to get right up and close and personal, so then fire shotgun you right in the face. But he is really fragile, and he's faster than Storm, but he's still one of the slower flyers, right? He does have a little dash that gives him an extra burst of speed. This doesn't last forever, it does run out. It doesn't have a long cooldown from what I remember, but it's not something that you're going to use to like dash out the way, right? It's going to help you reposition. It's going to help you if you see that, hey, I need to pull back. It's going to be able to help you get behind cover quicker. It can help you get to a health pack more quickly. It can help you get inside like a friendly healing ult more quickly. But it's not something that I'm going to like, hey, let me pop this and, you know, I'm out the way. One of his biggest things that he has is the ability to put down like this big triangle area, and everything inside of it's going to be taking damage over time. And if you pass through the wall, you take a big chunk of damage. He has the ability to throw out multiple fire tornadoes that hit in a small area, but it's like he was designed to do more area damage than someone like Iron Man, but it doesn't really play out as effectively as I think it was anticipated to. The fire shotgun does have a much more limited range than the repulsor blasts. He doesn't have the ability to throw out continuous damage. He can do the fire triangle, but it's also really easy to avoid that thing. And healing, even healing over time, a lot of different healing over times like rockets and, well, a little bit of healing over time from, say, Mantis. Of course, you do get that little bit of a chunk from her too. All of that will override the damage over time that you're taking from being inside of his firewall. Healing ults just make it kind of irrelevant that it's there. Now, in the right hands, you can put it down in the right spot, and you can kind of make it really painful for some people to move through an area. You can make it really painful to move that convoy objective forward, or to be able to penetrate on the domination objective. But it's not something that's going to prevent the opponents from getting there. It'll make them take some damage. It can kind of be a good primer, but it doesn't really provide area denial like I think it was meant to, because it doesn't actually do anything to stop an opponent from moving through it. Of course, I don't think there is a single kind of shield or wall in the game that I know we have Groot's. Groot's prevents people from moving through it, but I think his are the only one. It's not a finisher. It's just like a little bit of a primer in terms of the damage it does. Now, his ultimate, if you pile up those fire tornadoes on top of each other, you can make moving that convoy objective really, really deadly. You can make penetrating through a door onto the domination objective really, really deadly. But these are also kind of easy to avoid, like his firewall. Now, he has gotten tuned up. He's not a bad character, right? He's not a bad character. It's just he can get outdone by a lot of other characters in doing very similar things. Now, he's also one of the few characters that can put down damage in as wide of an area as he can. So that is definitely an advantage to him. He can pretty much guarantee that he's going to be able to hit their entire team pretty consistently. Nope, there ain't nobody else that can say that. There ain't nobody else that can say that they do area damage as well as the Human Torch, right? So that is a good thing, because being able to constantly put down damage across the whole of their team, that is something really powerful to be able to do, especially if you can do it effectively. But like a lot of other flyers, he's fragile. He sticks up in the air. You start trying to pop off. People start gunning for you. Pretty easy to take down. Pretty easy to take out. I know you're probably thinking I'm going to be putting him here in B, but he's actually going to go down in the C tier. Now again, this is not because Human Torch is just all around of a bad character. There's just other characters that can do damage more consistently, a bit more easily. Another character that probably needs a little bit of a come up is gonna be the Winter Soldier for me, down in C tier. He has a high damage 3-shot pistol. He has the ability to shoot out like a little electric blast and slow opponents. He has the ability to grapple them to him. He's got a little melee combo he can pull off, and the Kraken arm applies this little red chunk that if he can kill an enemy or get their health down into that red chunk, they die instantly, so he doesn't have to do their full health bar to actually kill them. Then he can pull off another Kraken arm, then he can stack that up, making more and more kills more easily possible with it. The problem is his melee damage output isn't the highest. The slow effect that he has, while it is nice, it would be better if it like stunned them and rooted them in place. He can grapple the opponent to him and pull them off positioning. While this can kind of disrupt things for an opponent as they're playing, oh hey, suddenly I'm in a different position than what I was expecting. Maybe they missed something. It's not really enough to like, I don't know, maybe if he like wrapped them up and then pulled them so they were kind of stuck, rooted for a second, it'd be a bit better. I mean, moving somebody against their will is always a good tactic, right? Sometimes it works out in your favor. More times it's going to work out your favor than not, but occasionally it's going to kind of blow up in your face, let's be honest. All in all, his range damage, it's not like he's spitting out bullets that are doing like hella levels of range damage or Namor levels of range damage. It's not like getting headshots with his pistol is like getting a headshot with Widow Sniper. Not that kind of high damage. If you don't pull the person in and then slow them with your little electric punch and then get off the melee combo and get some shots in pretty rapidly, you're not really going to be taking an enemy down solo as Winter Soldier. And also, you're having to use his whole kit. Like, if you are able to burn someone down completely with his full combo, you feel pretty good. But at the same time, you also just used all of your abilities to be able to do it. Winter Soldier just kind of needs a little bit more of a little overall damage output, so that way, I don't know, maybe he might be able to use one or save one of his abilities without having to use the full suite of them just to be able to knock somebody out in one shot. But even as Iron Man in Season 0, you'd think, hey, Winter Soldier grapples me in, he like little slows me, gets his melee combo off, and he goes to shoot me. You'd think he'd be able to take me out. Multiple times that happened to me in Season 0 and in Season 1 as Iron Man, and whether I was charged up or not, a few repulsor shots at close range did the trick, and I didn't die from his full suite of attacks. Now, someone that also kind of requires a bit more of their kit to be able to kill, but is also not a bad character, is gonna be Star-Lord, right? Now, where am I gonna be putting Star-Lord? Star-Lord's got speed. He's got a dash that reloads his guns. He's got 2 charges on that, so he could be dashing through the air, shooting at somebody, flip and reload. Somebody starts shooting at him, he shoots back, flips to reload his guns again, and suddenly he's able to pull off lots of full barrages from his pistols, which that ammo drains pretty darn quickly. He's able to put out a pretty decent amount of damage output across a couple of enemies, or if you really single target focus somebody and you're able to get all of your reloads into them as well, you can easily burn somebody down. Finishing power is really where it comes in with Star-Lord. Now, you could say, well, you're supposed to use his speed to kind of skirt around, damage one person, flip to reload, and then go in to do your spaz out attack to finish people off. And that's not a bad strategy. It's also not a bad thing if multiple people are attacking Star-Lord to pull that ability off to deal out some damage, maybe drive one of them off, then use a flip and use your fly to get away. He's really fast. He's about as fast as Iron Man in flight mode, so he's pretty speedy. He can use that to get away and escape. He does have 2 pistols, so he's kind of going out of both of his pistols. He puts out a good amount of damage really quickly, but all that combined, he doesn't have anything to really guarantee that kill. If he's picking at somebody that's taken damage already, or somebody that's running away that's taking some damage, he's really good at picking those people off. He's really good at getting low health enemies or squishy enemies that are a little bit damaged, tanks that are able to get away with a shield. He can get in behind them and finish them off so they can't get away and get healed back up to come back in for the next fight. A lot of different stuff. But again, him by himself being able to finish opponents, that's where he comes in the weakest. Now, if he can get his ult off, oh yeah, he can burn down some squishy folks from full health to nothing. He can even overpower those people getting healed. But at that point, you're kind of dumping his whole ult into one person that's getting healed just to overpower the healing and kill them. Now, I do like the fact that you pretty much get to laser beam people with his ult. You get that kind of homing shot in as long as the reticle's kind of on him. But again, by itself, finishing power is where it really lacks. A lot of times when I die to a Star-Lord ult, it's not because I'm at full health. It's because I'm already damaged. He looks up at me and I'm dead. Then he looks at somebody else hurt, they're dead, right? He's a good character that I definitely like. I like his high speed, his high mobility. I like the ability to reload really quickly and just kind of keep damage pouring out, but he does a lot of tickling. He's kind of like Human Torch down here, right? Because of that lack of overall finishing power, just by himself, fighting enemies full on, full health to nothing, that's just what gets him for me. I like Star-Lord as a character in the comics. I like Star-Lord as he's designed in this game. I like the zippiness. I like the dodging. I like the kind of mid-range to backline, just putting out damage. I like him as a character. I even like him in Marvel Rivals, but objectively, because of his overall lack of finishing power on his own, he's got to go in that C tier. So let's look at somebody that doesn't necessarily have a lot of great... Well, actually, let's face it, Punisher's got all the stopping power. Now, just to kind of cut things here, I'm putting Punisher in the B tier. Another badass in the badass tier, right? But the reason he's going in the B tier is when you push up on him, Frank got a whole lot. He's got a smoke grenade, but to somebody that's like a flyer or somebody that's going to be in melee combat pushing in against him, that's not going to stop somebody like an Iron Fist or a Spier-Man from being able to get up on you. It's not going to be able to stop tanks, or if you got a really, really aggressive C&D player, they're just going to be able to keep pace with you. It can create a little bit of confusion. It can block line of sight, but most things that are getting thrown long-range line of sight, like in terms of ults at least, that's not going to be something that's like, oh, hey, fear Magneto, and now I don't know where to throw this and I don't kill anybody. And maximum, well, I'm still shooting at the same spot, kind of locked into position once you begin the firing. It's still going to get in there and it's still going to hit people. A Wolverine activates his ult in the middle of a smoke grenade. It's not like it's going to prevent that from being able to pick people up and slam them back in the ground, right? It can block some line of sight. It can create a little bit of confusion. But his other thing would be the zip line. And the zip line, a lot of times, well, at least in the one game I have played with the Punisher, I didn't end up needing to use the zip line a whole lot, but I mainly used it to be able to reposition and open up flanking routes to myself. Be able to get around a little bit more quickly because he's a boots on the ground, slow character. He does have a shotgun for if he gets dove. He's got all the stopping power in that regard. It even has a pretty decent range on the shotgun. He can swap over to an assault rifle, which is the standard thing. I see a lot of people using this at long range, and I don't know why. Mid-range, assault rifle is great. Close range, if you get some headshots in there, you can really finish somebody off pretty quick. But I see people using this thing at long range. It's like they're trying to snipe with it. And it's like, come on, people. Frank's gun ain't that accurate at that kind of a long range. He does put some bullets out, but you really need to be able to do something more like a Widow, zoom in, blah, get a lot of damage on them as they're moving, as opposed to doing little tidbits of damage. Now, if he's able to sustain fire on you, even at long range, that assault rifle can take you out. But he's got to be able to sustain that. And at long range, there's going to be a lot of stuff that can get in the way or intercept his bullets, other characters getting up in his way, cover, stuff regenerating, you moving. His turret's a bit better for that, but his turret completely roots him in place, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen people go down on that turret. I've used his turret a few times. One time I tried to set it up on a flank to catch the entire team off guard, and they never came that route, so I just kind of sat there for a few seconds before despawning the turret manually. The very first time I got to empty the clip in it, I think I only got one kill, but I did a lot of damage to multiple enemies. It kind of helped drive them back as we were pushing to be able to unlock the convoy objective to start moving it. But didn't really do a whole lot, and with playing against Punisher quite a bit across 3.5 seasons, he is too easily taken out of that thing, especially if you get behind the shield. You just take Frank out of the turret, and the turret will despawn because Frank got taken out. By himself, he's good all around. You know, he's able to output damage, he's able to fight off divers, he's got a little bit of a jump backwards with a smoke grenade that can help him to get away. He's got a zip line to move more quickly. He can even leave the zip line there and use it multiple times, but he's squishy. He's squishy. And if that shotgun fired a wee bit faster, I could see it being a bit more effective as an anti-dive weapon. Of course, you know, if you get a couple of headshots, that's effective enough as it is. But I would have to say the one character that I have killed them in their ult the most is Punisher. And that's why I'm putting Punisher in the B tier. He's a good generalist. The thing I said about him in the Dirty Casual Tries video is that he's not really outstanding or exceptional in any way. He's good at doing a lot of different things, right? He's just a good generalist, jack of all trades, if you will. Now, with these next two characters, I can kind of talk about them at the same time. They are very similar to each other, except one's more of a ranged, more agile. Well, I won't say more agile, but she has a little bit less problems with lanes and overall terrain than the other. But both of these characters are going in the S tier, and that is Psylocke and Scarlet Witch. Now, Scarlet Witch and Psylocke both act good as harassers around the main team, then being able to lash out and attack opponents and being able to dive into the back line from the group. They're also both really good flankers. Granted, Scarlet Witch, being able to fly, she has the ability to get some more creative angles than Psylocke does, but because of Psylocke's dash and invisibility, she's also able to get some pretty creative ones too. Now, both of these characters, as you get closer to them, you're going to experience their full wrath a bit more fiercely, right? Psylocke with her shotgun ability, well, it's like the little shotgun crossbow. It does more damage the closer she is. So when she's able to use her invisibility to get close to a squishy in the back line, and then she can use her dash to dash in and deal a little bit of preemptive damage, people go down really quick like. Also, being able to empty her clip into somebody, she can do a lot of damage, especially if she's getting closer as she does it. Scarlet Witch does a bit more consistent damage over time, but she can also attack from a bit more of a longer range than Psylocke can more consistently because her attack latches onto an opponent. She's able to kind of hang on them, and she doesn't have to worry about spread or shots missing or, just possibly being able to get out of distance that way. They are both really good at being able to get out of danger. They're both really good at being able to escape and save themselves. They're both really good harassers. They're both really good flankers. They're both pretty good divers into the back line solo. Their ults are both really powerful. I mean, you can even use Psylocke's ult to like solo down a tank. Granted, they need to be damaged first. Some Scarlet Witch, if you're able to pop her ult off, you can delete multiple people instantaneously, but you do have that little bit of, being able to get shot out of it first, right? She does have that pure chaos. So she's vulnerable. Psylocke doesn't have that disadvantage to her ult, but with the more creative angles and being able to fly and get into the back line, they're both really good at being able to deal out a lot of pain and even get unexpected attack angles. Now, Psylocke, if you don't have her invisibility, trying to escape with her is going to be painful. It's going to be deadly. With Scarlet Witch, you can fly up to a vantage point, shoot out her stun, and then continue to fly away. At that point, you're also regenerating her first dash a little bit. Whereas if Psylocke doesn't have invisibility, people can just kind of track her down. But, I mean, she's got that crossbow, so she can kind of counteract and fight back a bit more effectively. If somebody's chasing her, she can let them close the distance and then burn them down more quickly than Scarlet Witch would be able to, even though she's got the high damage secondary attack. They're both good. They're both, not just good, they're both great. They're both pretty good all-arounders. They got mobility, they got ways to escape, they got multiple ways to be able to dish out damage. They've both got great ults. One is just more pop it to be able to deal out damage, save yourself, counteract somebody, make yourself really hard to hit, and the other is I'm going to delete multiple people instantly, right? While you could call them dive characters, I call them harassers, and I find them best if I'm kind of hanging around the main group with other people to act as my meat shield and kind of provide me with cover, and then lash out. That's how I find both of them to be most effective, but of course, we've all known that one Psylocke that's just somehow able to hang around the back line and never get caught or killed, and they just rain absolute terror on us. And we've all known that one Scarlet Witch that's able to get to a vantage point that we can't really fight back against, so that she can just... Plus, I mean, Scarlet being able to have a stun, that's just something great that not a whole lot of DPS people have. And invisibility, well, as we've seen with Loki and as we've seen with Invisible Woman, that's just generally a pretty powerful thing, being able to go invisible. But both of them are going up here in the S tier. They're both angels of death, if you will. One with a sword, one with chaos magic, and of course they go up here with our other angel of death, Magic, who just kind of ports in out of nowhere and then cuts you in half, right? Somebody else that you might think would go in the S tier, and you might be surprised at where I put them, is gonna be Moon Knight. Now, Moon Knight is a really easy to pick up DPS character. He's got the ability to do great single target damage. He can burn down one person really quickly, especially if he gets some attacks and then throws out a knock and then just absolutely hounds that person. He can do a lot of damage with the bouncing back and forth. Kind of like Invisible Woman can, where she's able to... It's really great kind of stuff. He also has the ability to reposition with a double jump. He also has a glide ability to kind of help him hang up out of combat or to be able to get from one vantage point to another. Neither one of those is really and truthfully going to save Moon Knight. Moon Knight also has the Hand of Khonshu ultimate. It can do a good bit of damage, hit in an area similar to Namor. Where Moon Knight comes up deficient is being a slow, boots on the ground type of character. Without his double jump, once he uses it, he has to wait for it to come back. It's not something that he can pop off rapidly or pop off with... Well, I mean, if you're getting chased, you can pop off both your glide and your double jump and still get chased down. While it does get you up and out and away, it's not something that's really gonna like zip you out of it, right? It's gonna come down to positioning and even a little bit of what your terrain looks like, right? Because if you got no cover up in the air, or you got no vantage point to land on, well, you're kind of just floating up there with that giant moon cape behind you, ain't you? And I'm going to be putting Moon Knight in the A tier. Kind of like Namor, he's easy to pick up, like even with Phoenix being able to be easily picked up. He does have a really good high skill ceiling, and some really good Namor, or not Namor, but some really good Moon Knight players can really burn down opponents quickly. But again, he kind of suffers from what Hela and Hawkeye do. His abilities can help him move, they can help him get out of the direct line of fire immediately, but they're not really something that's going to save him. Where a Moon Knight redeems himself is being able to hit multiple opponents really easily. The boomerangs bounce back and forth, he can place out a couple of onks, and then, hey, you've got this field where they're just going to kind of be rebounding between each other, hitting all sorts of your opponents inside the middle, pull down a hand of Khonshu, kind of like Namor's whale. The one thing that I would say places the whale above the hand of Khonshu is that the hand of Khonshu will get multiple hits, so it does less damage per hit, whereas the whale, it's just kind of all at once. Plus, Namor's whale keeps them knocked down, whereas the hand of Khonshu doesn't really immobilize them or knock them down or prevent them from moving. It hits them, right? Now, granted, you could land the hand of Khonshu on somebody, but with the way the hands come down in the pattern, someone could still get out with taking minimal damage. That's what prevents him from being in the S tier. Somebody else that you might think I'd be putting somewhere else. I really like Squirrel Girl. She's really easy to pick up, low learning curve. She's got the bounce that gets her out the way. She's got a little bit of splash from the exploding acorns. She can just keep ju with her acorns really easily. Got a pretty high ammo count. She can reload pretty much instantly. She's also got the root ability. She's had a lot going for her. Her ult, once it hits an enemy, starts like tracking other enemies, so it's like guaranteed to keep putting out damage. But it can run off the edge. It can bounce around in some corners and waste what could be a few seconds of damage output. It's a bit inconsistent. I do like Tippy Toe, but his little army of squirrels, in some maps, it's unavoidable. You're going to get multiple kills with it. Other maps, it could run off the edge, or again, because of uneven terrain, it could just get caught doing nothing, right? If it's a little bit off on aim, you can use her at close range with the slingshot. You can use her at longer ranges if you're able to get down the arc. It is a projectile, so you do have to lead, but there's other characters that can put out as high or higher damage output than Squirrel Girl can, a bit more easily and a bit more consistently, and they don't necessarily have to worry about their ult possibly fizzling and doing nothing. All in all, as much as I like Squirrel Girl and I really want to put her in the A tier, she's going to go down here in the badass tier with the Bs. I love Squirrel Girl. She's a great character. Went undefeated in my very first game with her. Every time I've played with her, even in the bad games, I feel like I do really good. But because you got people like Moon Knight and Namor and Psylocke and Scarlet Witch and Phoenix and whatnot, she's going to go down here in the B tier objectively. Now, me personally, I want to place her in the A tier, but objectively, I know she's got to go here in the B tier. I'm going to be putting Iron Fist in the B tier. Now, Iron Fist is a character that when I first played with him, I figured he would be in the S tier. Then they kind of hurt dive characters. They kind of took them all down a peg, if you will. And I felt like Iron Fist got hit a bit more than some people like Spier-Man or Black Panther did, or even characters like Psylocke and Magic, right? He was really great, really effective. He's got a triple jump. He can wall run. He's got the ability to bounce up through the air with his jumps and chase flyers. He's got a spin kick that he can use to launch himself through the air. And also, if you've dealt damage to a character, you can use the spin kick to really chunk him down like the last third of their health and finish him off. It's really powerful because it does more damage to characters that you've already damaged. He's even got the ability to kind of hang in the air if you want, or hide behind cover and meditate, get some little bit of healing, get some bonus health. Great all-around type of like melee dive character. But then after the nerfs went through and after they took dive characters down a peg, Iron Fist has just never seemed to really recover from that like some other characters have. Even as much as I'd like to put him in the A tier, I'm also going to be putting Iron Fist in the B tier. He just never really seemed to be able to recover from some of the nerfs he received like some other characters were able to recover. His high mobility and wall running still allow him to get around pretty darn effectively, but the combination of regular attacking, doing the block to get the multi-rapid hits, and using the spin kick as either a finisher or a way to dive in or out, it just doesn't seem to really be as effective as it used to be. There are characters that are dive characters like Black Panther that have still been able to retain their effectiveness, and I think that comes more from the use of their abilities combined together and less of just raw physical damage output. Iron Fist doesn't have the sort of chaining ability that some other dive characters have, or the combo ability that some other dive characters have, which has kind of forced him more into less of a dive and sort of a group support DPS. You kind of need to be kind of conscious of your team. You need to be more choosy with your targets than you used to. You can still lash out and dive into the backline, but you're going to kind of really be depending upon your team to be taking some of the pressure and attention off of you. He can't really solo dive anymore like he used to be able to. All in all, as much as I'd like to keep him up in the A tier, I'm going to be putting him down in the B tier. Now, speaking of some other dive characters, I'm going to be taking two characters, and this might be a bit controversial, because these two characters are generally kind of debated between to be which is harder to learn, which is harder to master, which is harder to get good with. Now, both of these characters I would really and truthfully say, just from the ability to dive in and wreak havoc on the backline, get solo kills with consistent reliability, they're both equal. But I'm going to be putting Spier-Man up in the S tier, and I'm going to be putting Black Panther in the A tier. Now, why am I making this distinction between arguably two perfectly equal characters? Black Panther has the ability to climb up walls. He has the ability to dash around with one of his abilities. He has, well, actually two of his abilities allow him to kind of do like a little dashing type maneuver. One's like a spin kick, and the other is his like slashing claws dash. Both of these can activate his little thing that he does where he puts out the mark on people and then he goes in and he hits them, and then he's able to get his, little dashing slash thing attack back. He's able to keep doing that, bouncing between people. He's able to use the spin kick and the spear to prime it. Well, what really hurts Panther is that sometimes when Panther goes in, and I know this more from playing against Panther than playing as Panther, because Panther is one of the few characters I've played with once and just haven't gotten back around to playing more games with him. But playing against Panther, when he dives in, if I'm sort of like a squishy kind of support character and I don't have a lot of like capabilities of fighting back against a dive character, Black Panther just tears me multiple new buttholes, right? But if I'm someone, say, like a Luna, or I'm someone, say, like a Mantis, and I have the ability to stun, or I have the ability to increase my damage output, I'm a pretty good mobile character, I've got healing abilities for myself, not really so much. Having Black Panther dive in on me when I'm sort of like a DPS character in the back line, or we're in the group and Black Panther goes diving in, Black Panther just kind of melts and kind of falls down. He's very highly mobile, he can hit multiple enemies at once, he can dish out some pain, and he is the terror of the back line, right? Like when you see Black Panther coming and you're in the back line, if you're not an anti-dive character, if you're not somebody that has enough defensive abilities or health to be able to kind of shrug him off a little bit, he's got you. You might see him coming. You might see Panther coming. And if you do, you get to stare death in the face. But he's probably got you. He's just that kind of character, and he can even wound tanks badly enough that they need to pull back or they need to be getting some heals. Otherwise, they're going to go down from everybody else pretty quick. Spider-Man is very much the same way, except you're probably not going to see Spidey coming. Spidey can swing, he can wall climb, he can also run along the wall at a faster rate than he can wall climb. He's got he's got the ability to put out more ranged attacks than Panther can. And if you're able to, you're able to get a couple of web tracers on somebody, pull yourself in, pull off your combo, you've probably got them dead. Just like if, suddenly you get this flash of purple and you see this little thing pop up above your character's head and whoosh, Panther goes rushing through you, you're probably dead. Same thing with Spider-Man if he gets in you on his combo, right? But the main difference between Spidey and Panther is you have a lot better chance of seeing Panther coming than you do Spidey coming. And it's the web slinging, the ability to pull yourself up and out, the ability to pull yourself closer to an opponent. You have multiple ways to do that. You have the ability, again, with the web swing, you can pull yourself out of combat. It's like an instant out almost, right? Like they have to be on you and you have to be slow activating that web swing to get out to not die. Both of these guys are kind of health pack heroes. Both of them have really high damage output against solo targets. They don't really do a whole lot to groups. They're kind of more ineffective against a group than effective. But I mean, these guys are the terror of the backline. Even if you're not a backline character, these guys get on you solo. I mean, any of these characters on this list, the only two that I would say, if Spidey and or Panther get on you solo, that you're probably not gonna die, is gonna be Magic and Swoletastic, Mr. Fantastic. Now, you could make the argument that these two have enough movement and stun and invisibility, like they could probably pretty easily get away too because of how mobile they are, but Panther is going to be able to keep up with Psylocke, especially chase her down, and because she's not able to put out as much damage and get that bonus health, she's going to be dependent upon that invisibility to get away. And well, Scarlet, that stun might not stun Panther at the right time. It might not prevent him from being able to continue to go up the wall and either spin kick or dash over to her. And if he's able to get one of those marks and start going back and forth on her, Spidey, even if she dashes away, Spidey can pull himself to her. There's just a lot going on. Now, I would say that Spidey's ult is a bit better than Panther's ult. Panther's is a single direction and it hits in a wave, kind of similar to Blade's. It's a good finisher. It can also not finish your opponent. It can do high damage, but if they got some healing on them, they're probably going to survive it. Honestly, Panther's ult is better as a primer because you can hit multiple people with it and put marks on them to start yourself off on your combos. Spidey's is more of a hit a group, right? Hit a group and knock them out and then get to wrap them up and kind of stun them at the end. Both of them are terror of the backline. By me putting Spidey up here, I'm not saying he's hard to learn or that he's better than Panther, but I'm putting him up in the S tier because of the web swinging. He's able to get away a bit more effectively than Panther is. If Panther's not on top of his movement, or if there's some, kind of difficult, lot of different rises in the terrain, that can get in the way of him, kind of like it can with Psylocke. Because Spidey has the web slinging, that can allow him to get up and out. It can also allow him to swing around and reposition or get into a dive position quickly, whereas Panther can't. It's that extra speed that he gets from the web swinging that I'm going to be putting him up here. And now we're down to the first one. We're down to Iron Man. We're down to the first character I've played with. We're down to my favorite character in Marvel. We're down to the character I've played with the most in Marvel Rivals. Iron Man doesn't have a lot to his kit. He's got missiles if he's flying forward. If you activate his power-up ability, you can fire off the missiles at will, just kind of being in the air. He's got splash damage on a ranged attack. The repulsors are very punchy. They can actually burn someone down more quickly with direct hits than his Unibeam can. The Unibeam hits over, consistent damage on a single target. The repulsors, again, have a little bit of splash. He flies, but that's also a bad thing because he's constantly flying. He's sticking up in the air like a sore thumb a lot of times, like your Storm is or your Human Torch is, right? He's a good sniper. He's not as good of a sniper as like Namor or Scarlet or Scarlet Witch. Black Widow is here. He's not able to, rebound his attacks between people like Moon Knight. His area of effect is a bit more, his ult, while it does hit an area and does deal massive damage, it's a projectile you can see coming in, so you're not popping it on somebody like the Whale or, the moon haunts you, He's not as fast as someone like Spider-Man is. While he does have the ability to fly to get away, he's not removing himself from line of sight with invisibility, and he's not getting a burst of speed. He's just kind of going into flight mode. He's just kind of exposed and open, but he's moving more quickly, right? Now, that speed can help him reposition. It can help him get away. It's definitely not something that if somebody's on you, it's really going to save you. There's a lot of people that can kind of easily hard counter Iron Man, but he can also at the same time kind of hard counter them. Like, he can counter a Hela and a Namor trying to snipe at him, just like they can counter him if they're sniping at him, right? He's able to get away from jumpers and speedsters that can get up in the air. I can't tell you how many times I've had like an Iron Fist trying to chase me down or get to me in the air, and I'm just able to keep away from him so easily. I'm able to chase down people like Human Torch in the air. I'm able to get splash damage around corners, so people that are kind of depending upon cover or something. I got a lot of really great tools in my arsenal, and by really great tools I mean 3. I have 3 tools that are just pretty effective in most situations. Iron Man's easy to pick up. He's squishy. He really comes down to positioning for most effective usage of all of his abilities and his whole kit. Now, if you ever charge up and you're flying and your charge up ability expires, you will stop flying for the extra stuff to come off of you. That's gotten me killed more times than I care to admit. Iron Man, you'd like to think that, obviously he's not an Esther, so I must be putting Iron Man in the A tier, right? Because he's my guy. He's good. He's someone that functions, and if he functions well, you're using long range, mid range, and close range, right? You're not just hanging back really far range sniping. You're not just up in the middle of the fray or up on top of the enemy bombing them from directly above where they're not looking. You're using all of those pretty darn effectively. You're using all of the ranges to make his kit the most effective. The repulsor is a projectile. Projectiles are nowhere near as good as hit scan when you're getting countered. If I got a Spider-Man coming up at me in the air, I can hit him with some repulsors. I've been able to kill some Spider-Man trying to come up at me and counter me and just pop, pop, pop with repulsors and they're down. But I got lucky. More effective against a Black Panther than I am a Spider-Man, but there are so many characters in the S tier, A tier, and even in the B tier that can wreak havoc for Iron Man. Of course, Iron Man can equally wreak havoc back with them. But objectively, I'm putting my boy down here in the B tier. That's right. B for badass. I'm putting him in the B tier. And that's because, always being in the air, you can get pretty easily countered. He is pretty squishy for a DPS. He's not like the most squishy for a DPS. He's kind of in the middle on the range, but the options he has to fight back, while they can be effective, they're not good counters to being dived on. He doesn't do area of effect damage as well as somebody like Moon Knight or Human Torch. He's not able to really... He doesn't have any good safes or escapes like a lot of the people up here in the S tier do. Plus, that interrupt on his movement. If he's charged up and then you have to start pulling away before the charge up expires, that's going to cause you to move slower and be an easier target while you're exposed and being tracked. It's a big disadvantage. It is. But yeah, my boy goes in the B tier. And that, ladies and gentlemen, guys and gals, boys and girls, is a Dirty Casuals Duelist Tier List. In the S tier, we have Magic, Mr. Fantastic, Psylocke, Scarlet Witch, and Spider-Man. In the A tier, we have Blade, Phoenix, Black Widow, Namor, Moon Knight, and Black Panther. In the B tier, we have Storm, Wolverine, Hela, Hawkeye, Punisher, Squirrel Girl, Iron Fist, and Iron Man. And in the C tier, we have the Human Torch, the Winter Soldier, and Star-Lord. It's been a long one. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please, those likes are really going to let me know that you guys want to see more Marvel Rivals content, and I'm kind of brainstorming some other ideas. But I'm definitely interested in all of the comments. I'm sure this one is going to be heated. I know there's a lot of different duelists. I know there's a lot of different fans of a lot of different duelists. And there's going to be a lot of disagreements on where they should rank. How truly effective are they? Now, this entire list is kind of looking at each individual hero by themselves, no team ups, not necessarily considering team comps or assuming that I have this or that in terms of a team comp, just kind of looking at themselves, their abilities, and how they handle, well, the vast majority of situations that I could think of here in my head on the fly. Now, I have played with all of these characters. Blade, again, caveat, only 6 games. You could also say caveat for Black Panther, only 1 game. But this is where I would rank these characters, all things considered, in the grand majority of situations. There are some heroes here that could easily be moved up a tier or moved down a tier based upon specific arguments, but in comparison to everybody else that also does what they do, this is where I think they stack up. And if I was going off of where I personally want to put people, well, there wouldn't be a C tier, and half the B tier would be in the A tier, and a couple of the people in the A tier would be in the S tier. But let me know what you think in those comments down below. Definitely let me know how you would change things up, if you would change things up. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for watching. But most importantly, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again, guys. I know this was a long one. I'm going to try to make it as short as possible as I can and post without cutting out anything good. Thanks.